Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Today, Friday, February 21st, we have a pretty massive 9-game NBA slate after the return with a 6-game slate where, I don't know, everybody ends up going off last night. Trae Young, 70+, Embiid up there, Bam Adebayo up there, right? It's high-scoring affair. Hopefully you survived. Hopefully you did not play the chalky Shaq Harrison, especially after he was listed as not starting, not great. Now, we get you 18 points, but, what's the upside there? Welcome back. Again, if you are new here, my name is Sal Vetri. I cover daily fantasy sports in a variety of different areas. What we do here on this podcast every single day is we go over the injury news that you need to know. It's early in the day. I have everything projected. I go over some of the plays, around 20 or so, that are standing out to me. We go over Vegas odds, pays, things like that pretty briefly. But thank you for being here. I do have Patreon exclusive content over there. XFL stuff, my tiers and rankings for week 3 already released. Projections for NBA will be up later today, as well as player pools, minutes projections, all that stuff. If you are interested, it's linked down below. I'll link it up later on above in this video. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button. You listen on the audio version, take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button at the end of it right now, whatever it might be. If you're watching on the YouTube version, that just red button right in the bottom right corner of my screen, whether you're on your phone, your laptop, your TV, your computer, whatever it might be, if you just hit it, it's totally free, helps me out a ton. Trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, and it's a pretty big milestone of mine. We're about 700 away, so any extra help would be great. Tell your mother, your brother, your friend, your sister, all that. So thank you. I do appreciate that. And with that being said, after all those subscriptions have been done, let's get into this slate. So we'll start with injury news, team by team, and there's some big studs out for this slate. Second game back, you still have some teams that haven't played yet, of course, when only 12 played yesterday. And Kemba's not going to play today for Boston. He's out with a knee injury. Now I have up all the rates right now for what you get when Kemba's out of this lineup. You get Jason Tatum, 32.4% usage rate. You get Jaylen Brown bumping up to a 27% usage rate, and Gordon Hayward with a 23% usage rate. And then those are the main ones that you're going to see. Marcus Smart doesn't pick up a ton of usage. He ends up still being like a 20% usage guy, but his big uptick is going to be from playing mid to high 20s in minutes to now mid 30s in minutes, maybe 33, 34. When you look at fantasy point per minute production, the minute production for Gordon Hayward goes up by about from 1 to 1.09. Jason Tatum goes from about a 1.15 guy to a 1.30 guy, and these are samples for Tatum of 700 plus minutes. Jaylen Brown goes up slightly to 1.05, and same thing can be said for Marcus Smart, who instead of being a 0.85, 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer, he averages in a good amount of minutes, 564 this year, 1.05 fantasy points per minute. So all of the big four for this team stand out. I think the one that's the most appropriately priced is Hayward, so he doesn't stand out as much. But Jason Tatum stands out a ton. Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart stand out a good amount, probably in that order that I just said it. So lots of impact with no Kemba in. For Cleveland, Alfonso McKinzie, the flat minimum, out with a foot injury. No major impact there. Will Barton is going to be questionable for Denver today with a knee. He's a favorable price point of 5,300, so if he was a full go, I would like it. You have Michael Porter Jr. off the injury report. If Will Barton's out, Michael Porter Jr. is probably going to have to slide into 30-plus minutes unless he's on some sort of minutes limit. In Indiana, TJ Warren is questionable with a back. Keep an eye on that. That will open up extra run in minutes for guys like Doug McDermott, Justin Holiday, Aaron Holiday, and so forth in the rotation. In Minnesota, we have another big injury news, and it's really undisclosed at this point how long Karl-Anthony Towns will be out. But when Karl-Anthony Towns is out, it's really hard to kind of see what this team looks like since they just had so many trades. There's not a lot of stable minutes. You have less than 100 minutes of play for a lot of these guys. You have Culver with 15 or 700 minutes of play without any Karl-Anthony Towns on the court, and he averages his average on the year, 0.85, but that's not impacting or taking into account the fact that you now have D'Angelo Russell in the mix. D'Angelo Russell, if you want to look at his point per minute production with Karl-Anthony Towns off the court, you really can. It's 41 minutes. It's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute producer, 1.38, but it's 40 minutes of play. Now I'm going to project Russell for around a 1.3 guy today, and he'll look okay, and he's priced up to the mid to high 8K range, so he'll look fine there, but it's really hard. What you pretty much know from the last time Towns missed was James Johnson started at the 5. There's no more Gorgie Dang on this team. James Johnson started at the 5. Naz Reid picked up run as well. They were both cheap enough in the 3K range to matter. Now James Johnson's priced up to 4,600. I still have some interest in Johnson at this point. Again, still no Covington on this team. So I think the biggest thing that this helps is just the overall production of guys like Malik Beasley, Hancho Hernan Gomez, and D'Angelo Russell. Then the fill-in centers are also appealing. But a big miss here for just no Karl-Anthony Towns in this team. For New York, they're going to have Alfred Payton and Wayne Ellington questionable today. Keep an eye on that. The Alfred Payton news, they still have so many guards there with Neil Aquina, Dennis Smith, RJ Barrett's healthy now, so I'm not really sure if I care all that much, even if he's out. DJ Augustine is questionable with the knee, so might actually return. And at the $4,000 price point, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of minutes limit. But if they said he's just going to go play 26 to 28 today and he's fully fine after this knee injury of taking about 2 months of his time away, it's a pretty appealing spot. Now, Michael Carter-Williams' minutes have been coming up, so maybe it's not as great right off the bat. Probably a wait-and-see type of thing. Damian Lillard is going to be out with a finger. He's going to miss a few games now, maybe even a lot more than a few games. If you look this season with Damian Lillard off the court, you have a lot of sample size. 570 minutes for Anthony Simons. With Damian Lillard off the court, he's a .89 fantasy point per minute producer. CJ McCollum in 500 minutes is a 1.21. So he's the biggest boost on this team producer. Carmelo Anthony, 340 minutes, becomes a 1 point fantasy point per minute producer. That's fantastic for the price point that you find him at. Hassan Whiteside in about 100 minutes, they usually play all their minutes together, is about a 1.2 guy still. You would imagine some sort of production uptick there. No more Kent Bazemore on this team. Mario Hezonja, we're about to get to, is out, so still obviously no Rodney Hood or Skal. So the secondary unit is really just Gary Trent and Anthony Simons, who should pick up the most run. Gary Trent still averages around 0.7 fantasy points per minute. So the biggest benefactors are in this order, in my opinion. CJ McCollum, Carmelo Anthony, and Anthony Simons when you're talking about overall points upside. Simons is 3,500 though, so it looks like it's going to be one of those Anthony Simons becomes a chalk day, and then later on in the day we start saying how we should pivot off of him because 35% of the field is going to own him. Something like that, right? But no, with no Damian Lillard, it really makes CJ McCollum, Carmelo, and Anthony Simons strong options. For Toronto, Norman Powell and Marc Gasol are going to be out today, and Patrick McCaw is going to be doubtful. No major news there. OJ Anunoby should continue to see good runs. Serge Ibaka should continue to see 30-plus minutes at the center position. Mike Conley is out for rest the day after the All-Star break, 2 days after the All-Star break. It's about 10 days of rest at this point almost, so pretty interesting there. That's obviously going to impact Emmanuel Moutier's minutes. Donovan Mitchell, if you're a believer that he sees a boost with no Mike Conley, he doesn't all that much. Joe Ingles will definitely see more point guard usage, so that'll change that. Thomas Bryant and then Jan Mahimni are both questionable. Both centers for Washington today are questionable, so definitely keep a close eye on that. It will make Mo Wagner a fantastic option if one or two of them, or more so two of them, were to miss, mainly Thomas Bryant. I will quickly stop on the, right now, target offense sheet here. So stopping on the target offense sheet, just quickly checking that. You can take a screenshot of this if you'd like. Since there's 9 games, I'm not going to really spend much time here. A lot of games with higher totals. Highest totals on the slate seem to come later in the day. You have a 237 game total between New Orleans and Portland. Very appealing spot, especially when there's no Damian Lillard. You have New Orleans as 4-point favorites, a 237 total. New Orleans, 120.5 team implied total. Currently the second highest on the slate, just behind the Lakers by about a point. And then you have Portland with a 116.5 with no Damian Lillard. So Portland and New Orleans, I imagine it's going to be a chalky game. There's a lot of players on New Orleans that are interesting and underpriced. And we just talk about all the guys on Portland. It seems as if DraftKings just didn't change the pricing on Portland, even though Damian Lillard, their highest usage and point per minute producer, is not on the team today. Just nothing changed for any of those guys. If anything, the price points went down on guys like Melo and CJ McCollum. So that's definitely a game that I'm going to be looking to target without a doubt. The late night hammer, 10:30, both of those games. Well, that's the Portland game is one of them. And then the LA game, the Lakers, is the second one against Memphis. Memphis playing on a back-to-back. Lakers 11-point favorites, 232.5 game total, 121.75 team implied. Highest team total, highest or second highest game total. It's going to be a track meet between these teams. Memphis, over the last 10 games for them going into last night, was the number 1 defensive team in the league and the dead last team on offense. So a very odd mixture that you're getting there. Usually you would imagine then lowers some of the totals that they're in. They get a 110.75 team implied total here. John Morant still looks like he's at a fine price point. Doesn't really move the needle too much for me. In this matchup for Joe Val, it's not the greatest, and his price point kind of indicates, even if he was on a back-to-back to play 28 minutes, which I highly doubt, maybe 26, 27 here, it doesn't make him that appealing. So Morant stands out. The rest of it's just sort of filler value that I really don't care about getting to. I'd say like the most appealing piece here is D'Anthony Melton. He grades out as nice value. If you get 22 minutes out of a guy with over point per minute production, it's nice. The Lakers are just tough against some wings though, but he plays more as a guard. For the Lakers, this whole slate is just disgustingly priced with LeBron at 10.5 and Davis below 10K. Obviously, I have interest in both of them. Rondo, I'm not going to be chasing his 22-minute games when he plays those. I'm just going to project him at 18 and really not get much to any of him. Kyle Kuzma, if you really want some value from there, he does grade out pretty good. But for me, it's Lonzo and Davis. I would or Lonzo. For me, it's LeBron and Davis. I would prefer Davis to LeBron slightly, but they're both in play. The other thing I'll point out is that Luka Doncic is below $11,000, and he's had a whole week off. He played the game before the All-Star break. He should play 33 to 34 minutes, and he's below $1,100. I get it. He's facing Orlando, pretty decent defense, but for him, I take out the defensive metric really and just weight it neutral because he's so good. And he contributes in so many ways. They're 4-point favorites with a 111.75 team implied total. I'm failing to see why he is. Look, I know it's such a slow-paced game. You have literally like the two slowest teams in the league. Indy would be one of the slower ones. The Pacers, OKC, or actually Denver on the opposite side of that one. So you have two of the slower-paced teams that are going to match up today. So you get a slower projected pace, but it shouldn't be anything that makes Luka $2,000 less than he should be, $2,500 less. So yes, Luka at the top when he's less than $11,000 is clearly just an absolute slam dunk dynamite play. So when we get to the early interest, you'll see that Luka at the top is clearly a slam dunk, without a doubt, dynamite play at this point. I mean, I can literally pull it up if you want to know. He is number one in usage on his team, similar, a 41.3% usage rate. He is number one in assist percentage on his team, not only his team, but in the league. He's in the top 1 percentile at 45.6%. So he's literally contributing in assist-wise if you take out garbage time almost half the time, and he has the ball in his hands over 40% of the time. His rebounding rate for a point guard is one of the more elite ones you will ever see. If you want to consider him a point guard, 22.8% rebounding rate. That is better than Bam Adebayo. That is better than Joel Embiid. That is insane that his rebounding rate is that high. He's fine when it comes to picking up steals, things like that. We obviously know Luka Doncic is fantastic. Just wanted to put those stats out there just to show you just how good he is. LeBron James, Anthony Davis. So LeBron is like right next to Luka in a lot of categories. 36% usage, 47.9% assist percentage. Both of them are the two guys that are kind of head and shoulders above the rest in assist percentage. His rebounding rate at 18.1% is fantastic for a point guard / small forward. He just never gets in foul trouble. 1.6% foul trouble is one of the lowest in the league for one of the most physical players in the league. You can say, the refs love LeBron, and they probably do at this point. But it's a situation where LeBron just doesn't get in foul trouble. I don't care if it's because of entertainment purposes, so they don't take him off the court for ratings, or if it's literally because he plays that well. I think it's because he plays that well, and it's hard to ignore that. Now, I would much prefer Luka Doncic projection-wise, but why not get to both in some lineups? Anthony Davis, if you want to look at Anthony Davis's numbers, he's a guy who gets a 20% rebounding rate. Very strong when it comes to blocks. 3.5% is top 10 in the league. Top 10 for assisting centers. You get a guy with a 27% usage rate as a power forward / center, and a 15% assist percentage. Yeah, obviously he's great. I would rank these guys as they're priced. I would rank these guys Luka, Davis, and LeBron. I have Davis and LeBron both in for 34 minutes. I have Luka currently in for 34 minutes as well. This next tier down, you get Rudy Gobert. Should play around 35 minutes. Have him at that today. Usage rate's not great, but you get the rebounding rate from him. You just get him on the court a ton. No Mike Conley if that does anything for you. Pick and roll offense might go down a little bit, but Gobert is not one of the more flashy players, but he's just priced $700 less than he should be. I would prefer Zion Williamson, who's below him, and some of these guards in the upper 7K range. But Zion is extremely fun to just watch on the court. Extremely physical. This is a guy who comes in and just immediately takes over the reins of this team. 28% usage rate, now leads the team over Brandon Ingram, I believe, or if not, it's very close. Assist percentage for a player of his stature is very good, around 12%. And then you're getting the rebounding upside, 13.5% offensive rebounding rate. You're getting a guy who doesn't get in foul trouble. It's insane, similar to LeBron. 2.2% of the time he gets into foul trouble or picks up fouls. That just means he's never in foul trouble at that point. He's never picking up enough fouls in a short period of time for it to actually matter. So Zion in this 8K range stands out of these two players between him and Gobert for me. Now the 7K range, this upper range is his two really strong options. You get Devin Booker against Toronto, 7,900, and you get Jason Tatum, 7,800 versus Minnesota. Matchup against Minnesota is fantastic for Tatum already. Now there's no Kemba, 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy at 34 to 35 to 36 minutes. Yeah, $7,800 Tatum. He's going to be one of the highest players in the slate, more than likely. If I'm noticing this, I hope other content creators are. He is going to be one of the best plays in the slate, and I don't think it's really something that you have to pivot away from because he is set up to really succeed here. Now, Devin Booker is a 30% usage guy, 28% assist guy, somebody who picks up steals as well. He should be on the court in a close game between Toronto for 36 minutes to 38 minutes. It's really hard to see him playing less than 34 at 7,900 for his point per minute production this year. I'll take that. Kyle Lowry on the opposite side of that Phoenix-Toronto game, he stands out. Now, he's not playing his huge 40, 38-minute games, but even if I put him at 35 minutes, he looks good today. Again, I would rather have Tatum and Booker, so I don't know how much I actually end up getting to. Gordon Hayward is a guy who averages 1.09 fantasy points per minute when there is no Kemba Walker on the court, and that's good. Like 7K is still too cheap for that. He should be 7,500 today, so he's definitely in play. Minnesota matchup against Juancho Hernan-Gomez and James Johnson and Naz Reid should not give him any issues, so he's one of the 4 main guys from Boston today that I have interest in. I might have the least interest in him when he's at 7K flat, but with that being said, he probably has maybe the highest ceiling of these 4 guys. Tatum probably has the highest consistency, but if you're talking about who out of these guys do I think can score 55 plus more frequently today, it's probably Gordon Hayward if he's getting his shot falling. Lonzo Ball at 6,900. So Lonzo's another guy who, look, his price point's dropping a little bit, but he's still playing huge minutes. Have him at 34 today. Yes, Zion is there and taking on a lot of the overall usage, but you're still getting on the season Lonzo not being a huge usage guy. He'll see around 20% usage. His big thing is assists. He'll average around 30% assists. He'll pick up rebounds as a guard. He's one of the more elite rebounding guards in the league. I mean, we talk about Luka. You really can't put anything on his level, but when you talk about Lonzo Ball, you're getting him rebounding at 14.7% as a guard that is as elite, that is in the top 5 percentile in the league. Nowhere near Luka, is almost half of it, but it's a different type of player. Donovan Mitchell, 6,900. No Mike Conley. Donovan Mitchell should play 34 to 35 minutes here. And whenever he's in the 6K range, he just looks a little bit more appealing. San Antonio, not the same defense as it once was, and playing really fast this year. Brandon Ingram is the crazy one here. So Brandon Ingram is at $6,800, $1,200 less than Zion Williamson at this point. And to me, it doesn't make much sense. You have them at equal usage percentages. So we talked about it earlier, Brandon Ingram's at around 28.8, Zion's at around 28 flat. So Ingram's still having usage. Now it's going to continue to come down as Zion's goes up, but we're starting to see it stabilize at this point. Ingram picks up a 20% assist rate. Ingram is a player who's active all over the court. He has triple-double upside with all this other talent on the team. It's very hard for him to get there, but he is also a 14% rebounding player, a player who does pick up blocks as well. So at 6,800, right now early in the morning, Brandon Ingram grades out as one of my best point per dollar values. Not straight up points wise, but if you're telling me that I think the way that I'm projecting Brandon Ingram, he should be like $7,500, $7,700. CJ McCollum, it's very similar to Jason Tatum. Don't overthink it. He is priced as if Damian Lillard's in the lineup. Damian Lillard is not in the lineup. That means that his 36 minutes of play, instead of being a 1 point fantasy point per minute producer, he's going to be like a 1.2 to 1.25 guy. Don't overthink it. Serge Ibaka, 6,500, going to play 30 to 32 minutes at center, going to be around a 1.15 fantasy point per minute producer. Not as great of a play as McCollum in my opinion, but for a center in this matchup against Phoenix, it's going to be very strong. Danilo Gallinari, 6,200. Just your consistent 32 minutes, 1 fantasy point per minute producer, grades out for like 31 fantasy points and just looks okay, but nothing that I really care too much about. Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, both around 1.05 to 1.1 fantasy point per minute producers. I think they both play around 33 to 34 minutes a day against Minnesota, who their most difficult opponent is going to be trigger-happy D'Angelo Russell and trigger-happy Malik Beasley. I don't think they have much to worry about here. Or rookie Jared Culver. So I think that both Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown are strong options today to see that much run and to really at those price points pay them off. Malik Beasley, 5,400, have him in at 32 minutes, have him in as a 1 point fantasy point per minute producer. Actually, I think I put him at 0.95. Matchup against Boston, he looks fine. Carmelo Anthony should be $1,700 more expensive, maybe. Maybe that's a stretch, maybe $1,200, right? $6,500. He's $5,300. He averages a point per minute when there's no Lillard on the court. It's probably one of the best matchups that he could personally find to stay on the court longer. Have him at 33 minutes today. Have him as one of the better point per dollar values. Derek Favors is okay. No strong stance there. Juancho Hernan-Gomez in a short time with no Towns on the court in like 2 games of this team, seeing like 0.85 fantasy points per minute. I think there is an upside there for him. Same thing for James Johnson, who should fill in directly for Towns, started the last time that Towns was out. D'Anthony Melton, I talked about him. You're getting a guy with 20+% usage rate for just $4,000, same price point he was last night. If you get him for 22+ minutes, he offers some value. And his Cantor, if you get him for 18 to 20 to 22 minutes, any of those ranges at 3,700 puts him in play against this Minnesota team that's going to just be lacking a big today. Also allows him to just go out on the court more than he usually would when you don't need somebody defensively like Tice, who's a little bit better than him, definitely a lot better, to try and guard a guy like Towns when it's just going to be James Johnson and Naz Reid. And then Anthony Simons is about a 0.89 fantasy point per minute producer with no Lillard on the court this year in a huge sample of minutes. If you put him at that today in a strong matchup against New Orleans for 25 minutes instead of 28 to 32, he looks very strong. I literally have him in for 26 right now, and he grades out as a very strong point per minute play and a guy that's hard to ignore. 26 is a very low number when there's no Mario Hezonja, when there's no Damian Lillard, right? When there's no Rodney Hood still. Like, there's a great chance that he could play 30 to 32, and that number gets even higher value-wise. So that's where I'm at right now on this 9-game Friday slate. Please, before you leave, if you're on the audio version, just take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, follow and subscribe on a lot of those, like Stitcher and Apple. So it helps me out a lot. And if you have just a couple extra seconds, say something that you like about the show, 5-star review. That also helps. The reviews help to just kind of grow the audience, make it seem legitimate. And then the subscribing, all of that helps actually boost it up the rankings. Today we came in at number 14 on the rankings for fantasy sports. So hey, I'll take it. Independent content creator, we love that. If you're watching on the YouTube version, the best way to support possible is to hit that subscribe button, and also by watching all the way through this far. So let me know if you did, so I can personally thank you, like I usually do. So thank you so much for tuning in. Check out drafters.com, promo code SAL100, SAL100. It's online snake drafts. Get you a 100% deposit match up to $50. That is drafters.com. They're linked up above the picture for them. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace out, gang. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. Helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my @SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me. Or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.